natural. That's how it should be. What's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and featured titan for today, Trish Ingels. Trish, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm honored to have you on the show. I know there's so many people out there in anticipation really to dive in just to get to know you a little bit better. With the legacy that you've laid and the reputation you have in this marketplace, I know that I'm stoked. I'm really excited about this one.
Thank you.
So if it's all right, we can just dive in.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's go into the first question. I guess tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh, goodness. I was a computer programmer, hated what I was doing,
Okay.
and I was fortunate enough, I was 23 years old and decided to sell real estate. My father had sold real estate. I knew I never wanted to do that because he worked all the time. But a guy who was hired that was 100 times smarter than I was as my assistant had starved out in real estate, and I was dying to get out of the basement.
Okay.
So he would always say, you got to sell real estate, you got to sell real estate. So I was fortunate enough that I decided what I was going to do when I was 23, and I've been doing it 42 years. I love it.
Unreal.
I do.
You know, I think that you've seen so many things in the marketplace and the change in the business and just the community in general. What was the initial push, though? I mean, from going from what you were doing into real estate, was there an initial spark, or what were you thinking? You know,
I have such a love for people. I love to be with people. And I was doing math formulas in the basement. It was so not me. So not me.
This is awesome. This is great.
So I just wanted to be with people. I get great joy out of that.
And I think that, as you know, and a lot of people that are watching and tuning into this particular show, it is truly a people business.
Goodness, yeah.
You know, it really is all about, as we were kind of discussing before we went live, it's really all about the relationship and engaging with people and being in the right places. I think that's important, but your heart being in the right place. So honestly, I think this is a great segue into the next question, which is, Trish, what's your why? I mean, what motivates you to do what you do to the level that you do it at?
You know, it's really odd. I don't have, I've never had a board on my wall that says my production.
Okay.
I never know what my production is. I never check a commission check because it's, to me, I'm determined it's not about the money. But I've been so blessed that it's about the money because I've done so well because of what I do. But truly, my folks gave us a great work ethic. And so even if we were sweeping the streets, we would do the very, very best job that we could. So I get up in the morning and I determined to service my clients the very, very best of my ability.
Wow. And so just so you know, Trish, and everybody out there knows what exactly my intentions are by saying this, that is a perfect example of a true professional. That's really what this show is all about. It's not about overall production and commission checks. It's about really setting that higher standard as to what a true real estate professional should be, how they should conduct themselves, caring about the client, giving back to the community. So I'm honored again to have you on the show. I think it's a perfect representation.
Clients can feel that. They know if you're really looking out for their best interests. And so they'll come back to you. They'll refer you if they know you're there truly to help them and do the best job.
I think that's so true. And I love this kind of segue into the next question, which is really the advisory portion of this. There's a lot of seasoned professionals and some newer professionals that watch or listen to this series, and they want to learn from the best of the best, the titans that are out there. So if you could take a look at your career thus far, pick or choose one or two things that you added to your business that took it from one level to the next. What's that look like for you? What kind of advice would you say?
I think it's really important to decide what your market is, what your specialty is going to be, and know it. Just know everything about that market. Because I think we can only offer, give them expertise and service. And so you have to really give them something. And so they know they're getting, our money's worth if you're taking care of them. So that's really, really important. And then get an assistant. It makes you free to go do what you're good at instead of the paperwork.
Okay, which is huge advice, and anybody out there who's nodding their head, as you're listening to this or watching this, is so true. But this is the pushback that I get, or some of the concern that I have from some other professionals that aren't right at that point, or they don't know when that good time is. So, what was that like for you when you hired your first assistant, Trish? And what advice would you give to anybody who's maybe thinking about doing it? When's a good time?
Oh my goodness. When you decide that you're spending more time up all night doing paperwork, when you find you're missing a deadline or anything like that, just get an assistant. You will more than make up for what they cost.
Okay.
And you have to get a good assistant, someone who really knows what they're doing, that understands real estate.
Okay, and I think it's hard to find, but doing your due diligence and the best you can. But really, I think that's great advice for everybody who's listening, is just when you get to that point, you'll know. I love what you said about really understanding and knowing your markets. I think that a lot of professionals who get involved in the business, especially newer ones, they look at it and say, oh, it's so glamorous, and yeah, that looks easy, and I could do that. I have a bunch of friends.
It's not easy.
It's not just throwing a party, everybody. I mean, there's so much more to it, as you know. But I think that's important, is just to dive in deep, understand your craft, and stick to it. It takes time. So I think that's really, really good stuff going into it. So this is the tricky part of this particular interview and series, is the challenge question. So let's move on to that one. And I know everybody gulp, but if you could pick a challenge that you dealt with in your life, that you overcame, that you became stronger because of it, what's that look like for you? And I'll try to preface this for everybody, is we all deal with challenges,
Right.
whether it's in the past, now, or in the future. But I think it's really how we overcome them.
Absolutely.
So what's that?
You'll
look
grow
like?
from any challenge. I was telling Greg, my story is really long, how it turned my life around, because I have been very blessed and I've always worked really hard. But when I was 30 years old, I had an embolism and I was pronounced dead.
No.
And I was healthy and running all the time and felt I was in the best of health. But I grew so much from that, because there were so many things that happened that were just supernatural, that took care of me, that I can't even begin. It would take too long. But there was a doctor I was in Mexico City. There was a Dallas cowboy that had been shot the week before. He was there and had the name of the president of Mexico to rent his jet. What are the chances of that?
Unreal.
And then when we rented the plane, when I land, well, it started from the beginning.
Sure.
We were in a plane and it landed in Mexico City and kicked me off the plane. And had that embolism would have happened in the air, I would not have made it.
Unreal.
But so I flew back. I woke up. I was blind. My vision came back 24 hours later. Just over and over and over. I have brain damage from not having oxygen to my brain.
Wow.
I don't have seizures. My vision came back. All the things that no one expected.
Sure.
And I remember my secretary saying, "You're the most unlucky person in the world." And I'm going, I'm the most blessed person in the world. But what I discovered out of that is God is so big, and He's right there with you every second, and took care of every problem that I ran against, and took care of it. I was unconscious and He took care of it.
Wow.
And it really changed my whole life to realize God is so present. And that's what changed my life mostly.
And I mean, first of all, thanks for sharing that, because it's not easy to do.
It's a long story, yeah.
It's I definitely want to hear the full. So stay tuned. Trish Ingels 2.0.
Yeah.
I think that is going to speak to so many people out there. It already hit me so hard. I mean, you can imagine being 30 years old. Just
Being in prime.
perfect health, right?
Yeah.
And just
no symptoms.
unreal. And the way that things worked out, it wasn't luck or fate. I mean,
Not
there's
at all.
something there.
There's no way there could be that many coincidences that lined up the way that it did.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way that I look at that, and I know that there's a lot of people that are watching or listening to this right now, maybe they're dealing with issues themselves that are happening now, but just keep going, keep moving forward, and look at what you've done and what you continue to do. If you kind of just sat there and things didn't work out, you wouldn't have accomplished what you've accomplished, and so many lives that you've touched and influenced.
Yeah.
I find that to be a beautiful story. I mean, that's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah,
It is.
that's insane. So hopefully everybody appreciates that. I know that I do, and we'll definitely get 2.0 up there at some point to get the full story on that. But that's great. That's great stuff. Let's move into something a little softer,
Yes.
if that's okay. And this one is actually one of my favorite questions, just to kind of understand what people are thinking in the background. It's the travel back in time question.
Yes.
So if you could travel back in time and give young Trish a piece of advice or two at any stage of your life, what would you say to your younger self? Tricky question.
That's a stumper. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, you have to be dedicated. You have to know that, you just really have to work hard. People think real estate's fun, and everybody has a nice car and they drive around and look at pretty houses. And as everyone knows, that is the smallest part of my business anyway,
Sure.
is showing houses. And I think you just have to get a confidence of what you're doing, and people just can understand that, feel that confidence, and it's so much easier. I'm always telling my daughter how you can look somebody in the face and smile at them and give them any kind of news, and it's okay. If their house is dirty, if they need to do this or that, you just have to have that confidence to know you're doing the right thing, and don't be afraid to say it.
Okay.
You're working for them.
I think that's great. And a lot of us, anybody who's watching or listening, they can kind of feel that pushback where it says, oh, I don't know, and how do I deliver this message? And no one wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think that your general energy introduces yourself before you even speak a word. And I think a smile and eye contact, body language, I mean, there's so much to it. So that's huge advice out for everybody, myself included. It's just nice to have and hear that constant reminder. I think that's great. It's fantastic. So,
it's worked for me.
Yeah, there you go. Straight from Trish, everybody. So this is gold. This is gold. Write these things down. So let's go into the next question, which is one of the crowd pleasers of this particular series is the feeding of the mind question. So a lot of professionals, they want to know what the Titans are feeding their minds, how they're growing mentally and really improving their lives. So I'll kind of lead into it with books you're reading, podcasts, influences of social media.
Yes.
How are you feeding your mind?
And all honestly, I've sold houses for 42 years. I know how to do the deal. Really the only book I read consistently is the Bible.
Wow.
And from that, it makes me who I am. I love people. I want to do the right thing for people. You want to show them kindness. You want to show them love. And so that feeds me better than any class.
Sure.
And I go to classes, obviously, to keep up with what I'm doing.
Okay.
But that's really what feeds me more than anything else.
I think that's so big for everybody to hear, and everybody's looking for the silver bullet. If I read this book or I listen to this, I'm going to be the smartest person in the room. I mean, that's all great, and it's important to educate yourself from different avenues. But I think that what you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're feeding your soul.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's so many people that break down their lives and having balance, and if it's family and it's health and then it's finance, spirituality is a part of that. Your soul is a part of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a wonderful message for everybody out there, is just to really look for that balance. And if you're educating your mind in your business, that's great, but you got to look outside of it too.
Yeah.
So I think that's good takeaways for everybody and to take to heart, just so you know. So, but just as everybody knows, I'll have links in the comments down below so that you can follow along and feed your mind the same way that Trish is doing, which is fantastic. This is great. This has been amazing. So
thanks.
compelling. Just a beautiful, beautiful representation of who you are,
thanks.
and just getting to know you a little bit better. Let's wrap this whole thing up with a final question.
Okay.
If you could sum up yourself as a person, a professional, with a mantra or a quote that you live by, what's that look like for Trish Ingels?
I always try to do the right thing, and I always do the best job that I possibly can. I think for professional, business that I think you can't go wrong when you do that.
Agreed. And not to...
And do the right thing to agents as well as with clients. I'm going to deal with an agent a lot more than I am with a client. And so I don't want to hurt that agent either. And it's amazing how many agents will want to do business with you in the future because you treated them with kindness or with respect.
And to me, that sums you up beautifully as a person, as a professional. And again, the reputation that you've laid is just absolutely phenomenal. Trish, again, I'm honored to have you on the show. You are an official real estate titan, Trish. I didn't need to tell you that, but you are. So thank you so much again for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Everybody, thanks so much for your time and attention, your love and support. Really, really appreciate you tuning in. If you like what we're doing here with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to subscribe to our iTunes channel as far as that's concerned. If you like to listen to this, take a look at the Facebook page and our YouTube channel. As always, live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care.
Bye.